Welcome to the webinar. Just getting started, and I can see people are still joining. Hi, Charlie. Welcome. Hi, Alina. Yeah, things are good in Scotland. Grey skies out there. So yeah, great. While everyone is joining us, please just introduce yourself in the chat box. If you can add your name and your organisation, and just one word that describes how you're feeling right now. I've been chatting to our panelists in the pre-webinar room. That makes it sound fancier than it is. So I'm feeling pretty inspired at the moment by all the amazing things they're involved in. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them. Yeah, a bit chilly in Sheffield Hallam. Yeah, I would imagine Dundee's pretty chilly as well. Charlotte, you're feeling tired. That's good to hear, Charles. So you're enthusiastic. We've got a few tired folk. Looking forward to going outside, Alina. Salinated, nice, Gilbert, nice. Brilliant. Hi, Lisa from Newcastle. So rainy, yeah. It's just constant rain everywhere, isn't it? Hi, Nicole. Feeling motivated. That's good to hear. Yeah, Zach's all chilled. He's behind the scenes today. Ready for the weekend. And it's only Thursday, Andrea. Yeah, all sorts of raining. And do you know what? I don't think it's actually raining outside here at the moment. So, I'm just saying, I'm in Glasgow, so usually it would be. So yeah, I think you're all doing this. Everyone seems to be very well house trained already with webinars and Zoom settings and everything. But just to say, make sure that you select all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your chat. I think we'll probably just get started. Esther, you're hungry. See, that's the lunchtime meetings. The good thing about webinars is you're hidden away. We can't see you. You can munch on your lunch while you're listening. So we had a PhD student from Lifetime CDT in Glasgow a couple of webinars back, and well, you really seem to love hearing from their perspective. So we thought it might be rather nice this time round to devote an entire webinar to hearing from PhD student researchers. So we're absolutely delighted to have 4 PhD students joining us to talk about their experience of industry-centric training and how training is working for them at the moment, really. And we're trying something a wee bit different this month, as we're going to run the webinar as a general discussion rather than individual interviews. I've got some great questions, I think, and I'd be delighted if you've got questions. Please do jot them into the chat box, and I'll do my best to build them into the conversation as well. And again, I can see you're all chatting already, but please do use the chat box to share your comments, queries. We usually have lots of chat going on at the side, and it's great for sharing ideas. So our aim for today's webinar is to give you a bit of a sense of what's going on for PhD students at the moment. I think things are changing rapidly, so it's useful to check in to hear why are they attending industry courses, what's driving their attendance at the moment at training, and how can we adapt training to meet their needs in this ever uncertain and changing environment. So we've been running this webinar for a year or so now, and I'm delighted to see a lot of familiar faces. Well, you know what I mean when obviously I can't see you, so don't worry, but I can see recognize quite a lot of names in the chat box there. But also a big welcome to all of those that are here for the first time. Really lovely to see you, and I hope you find the session useful. Just to warm us up and just to hear a little bit from you before we get started. Over the last few months, we've been sharing some weird and wonderful exchanges about haircuts and Zoom interruptions and just all the things related to what it's been like. So this month, I thought, with All Hallows Eve fast approaching, I'd like to hear from you. What's been your best ever Halloween costume or fancy dress costume? Please do describe it to us in the chat. It can be something that you've worn, or maybe it's something that you've made for someone else to wear. I've worn plenty of fancy dress over the years, but for this one, I think I have to go back to my childhood. To be fair, I never really gave my parents much warning for things, so I was usually a cat. But they did excel themselves the year they sent me as Miss Thailand with a hula-style skirt made from my dad's ties. To make up for their lack of political correctness, the following year they sent me off as Queen Boudica, although I did have to explain to all my 7-year-old friends just exactly who that was. We've got some goodies here. Lord Helmet from Spaceballs, that sounds impressive. Winnie the Pooh onesie. Alvin of Alvin and the Chipmunks. When you were in your 30s, no excuse, Joe. A paper mache pumpkin, brilliant. Dogs as Batman, fantastic. Traffic cone. Oh my God, you guys, I bet you're busy sewing and knitting things as we speak. There's so many, a ghost outfit for your daughter. Yeah, a sheet. Pac-Man outfit. So that'd be brilliant. You could set up a whole thing with that robot costume. Green tights, tutu and wand, fairy liquid. Class. Very good. The death of Welsh industry. Oh dear, Catherine. Oh, Joanna, you did Queen Boudica too. That's it. Yeah. I think it was just, we must have had a sword. That must have been all that we had. Oh dear. Okay, loads of interesting ones. Sorry, I'm getting caught up in all these amazing things that are going on here. Carol Baskin from Tiger King, you're going at. It's great. This is it. I think Zach's right. This could be the whole webinar. Right, okay, so let's move on. Our goal from today is really for you to pick up some new ideas and, you know, just perhaps a fresh perspective, a new approach, some practical tips that will allow you to create an action as a result of this that will help you keep moving forward. And for me, I think that would be a good use of an hour from my perspective. Just a couple of quick webinar guidelines. We've got, we're recording it. I think that would be kind of made aware to you when you came in. The links will be available after the webinar. Please do feel free to share widely if you think it's useful to people. Type questions and comments in the chat box. You can make your questions public so everyone can see, or private so that it just comes to the Skillfluence team. I'm afraid you're on mute, so we can't hear you, and it should be a pretty jam-packed 60 minutes. So why are we doing this? Well, we like bringing people to learn, bring folk together so they can learn together. That's what we do. We're a training company. We've got contact with lots of universities and people within them who are finding ways to develop researchers. So we've got the reach to kind of facilitate this type of conversation. And really, we want to support the community, and I think that's more important than ever right now. So we've been going for around 4 or 5 years now. We've trained, it must be well over 6,000 researchers and academics and PhD students by now. We must update these slides, eh? We've got a really amazing range of trainers, real subject matter experts. You'll meet a few of them in the chat box today. So we've got Joanne Haggerty's in there and Zach Sorrells, and we've also got our training operations manager, Rachel Clark, in the chat box today. So we focus on supporting and developing researchers to look outwards. So giving them practical skills in how to communicate, collaborate, innovate, and work with or in industry and startups and business. And basically for us, it's all about helping them to make a difference. Right now we're fully online, but usually it's a bit of a mix of in-person facilitation and online events. I'm Alison Gray. I founded Skillfluence in 2015 after spending a bit of time in sabbatical in the US. When I came back, I set up Skillfluence, and yeah, been growing since then. Okay, let's take us into the kind of main part of the webinar now. I don't usually go into details about our programs because this CPD webinar isn't really about us, but I do feel that I need to give you a bit of context for the training that all the PhD students that are on our panel have been involved in with us. So just to give you a very quick overview, they all attended our 6-week Connecting with Industry program. Interestingly, this has definitely been our most popular course over the last 6 months, and we've delivered it to nearly 500 researchers from more than 25 universities this year. So for the purpose of our discussion today, I think it's helpful for you just to know the elements and format of the programme. So the core programme has got a combination of e-learning at the students' convenience on the e-learning platform. There's a live masterclass with their peers every week. There's a live conversation with a guest speaker from industry where they get to chat to them. And there's an application activity where they apply what they've learned to their own circumstances and area of research. In addition, universities often add in optional elements, so things like multi-mind live business challenges, business work placements, and individual coaching. So I don't think we need to go into the content at all, but if you'd like to find out more, there's a QR code in the corner of the slide, or I think Rachel, as if by magic, has read my mind and has got the link in the chat box there. So all our guests today, they all took part in the core programme and the multi-mind challenge, and a couple of them had coaching sessions as well. So hopefully that sets the scene nicely. So let's actually get to the fun bit. It's time to talk to our guests. And if you have any comments or questions, please, do jot them into the chat box. So I've got a little slide for our panel members. I'd like to introduce our 4 guests. And what I'll do is I'll introduce them one at a time and go to each of them to ask them just to give a short intro to themselves. So first up, we've got Johanna Hettinger. She's a PhD student at the University of Oxford in the Bubble group. I think it's a great name. So the Biomedical, Ultrasonics, Biotherapy and Biopharmaceuticals Lab group. And she's in her penultimate year of her PhD. So welcome, Johanna. It would be great if you could briefly introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Johanna. I'm in the second year of my PhD. I'm in an industry partner PhD, so I go on internships a lot. I've interned at 3 different companies by now, startup, small, multinational, and I'm right in that sweet spot where I've settled into my lab, but I have enough time before I graduate to build all the skills I need. And I'm now at that point where I'm looking what skills I want to build and kind of slowly investigating what companies will fit with my career plans.
Brilliant. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Welcome. So that's great. And just keep your camera on, but you can go into mute, and I will pass over now to Mina. I'd like to welcome Mina Amrovani, who is a 3rd-year PhD student in business management marketing at Heriot-Watt University. So hi, Mina. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be a part of this webinar today. I'm Mina. As Alison said, I just started my 3rd year of the PhD, and I have the experience of both working in the industry and academia. And I've also taken part in the Connecting to Industry classes before. And I would like to share my experience today and see if I can help for the future research classes that you're going to organize for us.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Mina. That's great. Okay, now let's welcome Matthew, a final year PhD student at Queen's University Belfast within the Senator George J. Mitchell Institute for Peace, Security and Justice. And his PhD focuses on cyberspace and concepts of digital sovereignty within the European Union. And he's also a co-founder and co-CEO. So welcome, Matt.
That's quite an introduction. Just when you're talking about haircuts, as you can see, that photo was taken pre-lockdown, and now I haven't been able to get to the barber, so I really should update the headshots. But carrying on, my research is focused on the European Union's digital single market and how Commission policy is enacted at member states. It was through my own PhD that I got really interested in digital policy and how that was being implemented. And through seeing those different angles, how it affects different member states, I felt I could take that knowledge and translate that in industry. So I teamed up with a fellow PhD student, and we're currently in the process. Well, we are in the process of the startup and trying to apply all the stuff we're learning. I am a final year student, I wish I had the same time as Joanna. She put it very eloquently about the skills she needs. I'm in a mad dash trying to slap a dissertation array together and on the street dancing for some funding to get this startup on the ground. So that's where I'm at.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Matt. Fantastic. All right. And then we have Virginia Casablanca Antras, who's a doctoral student within the Systems Approaches to Biomedical Science CDT at the University of Oxford. So welcome, Virginia.
Hi. So I am in this Center of Doctoral Training, which is a 4-year program in the last year of my PhD, which is centered around protein aggregation mechanisms and neurodegenerative disease. And I've already been spending some time during these years in Oxford trying to find out more about entrepreneurship and industry and trying to get some new skills. Because my background is quite biomedical, but in my PhD, I actually have learned some coding and also some mathematical modeling skills. And at the moment, I don't have really clear plans for what to do after I finish. So part of getting involved in these courses and also being here is just for me to keep thinking about this important aspect of getting skills and thinking what to do next.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So welcome to all of you. This is really kind of you joining us, and I'm kind of looking forward to it because I've not done a panel discussion before. So let's play it by ear and see how this goes. So I'm going to start my first question. I think I'll go to Johanna just to not mix it up straight away. So I think there's a real variety across our panel of where you're coming from, really, in terms of motivation for deciding to do this training. And what I'd like to start with is, what are your aims after your PhD?
So my aim at the moment is going into a research job in a small, medium-sized company, and then sort of working my way up through research, but going towards management role. That's sort of the long-term plan at the moment.
Brilliant. See that? So you've got a clear plan. You're kind of like, yeah. I know what I want to do. Okay, brilliant. All right, thank you very much for that. Let's go now to Virginia, because I think you kind of touched on, you're in a different place really, aren't you? So tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are with your aims after your PhD.
Yeah, so I'm undecided whether to continue in the academic route through a postdoc or to get some industry experience. Actually, my PhD is co-funded by a company, Eli Lilly. And so in a way, I was already interested in that side when I joined the PhD. But I guess at the moment, I'm really open and essentially trying to find out what it would be like to be in a company. So that I'm kind of quite looking for like internships or something, even though in COVID times it's difficult. But yeah, my aims are really pretty open at this point.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. You see, you've got someone who's got like, I know what I want to do, and someone else is like, I'm exploring. So let's, Matt, I'm thinking coming to you next, just to hear what your aims are.
I have an aim. Whether the path to that aim is correct is the one thing I'm slowly discovering with doing a startup. 1 week is not like the other, and any direction is not any way linear. And basically, I was really committed to doing a postdoc, and then I did a program before this called Co-Founders in Northern Ireland, and then after that, it really sparked the idea of a business, and then that's why I was really interested in Skillfluence, and that sort of solidified the idea that I want to do a startup. So at present, my plan is after the PhD is to invest all that time. We're currently filling out funding programs to do that, and we are just sort of researching around our product and doing customer user testing and how to get there. It's just basically, I'm at an exploration stage, but my end goal is in the next 5 years is I'd like this to be a real company. I'd like to be earning money, and we would like to be able to have employed between 5 to 8 staff to help support what we're trying to do.
Yeah, okay, oh, that's interesting. So another kind of clear vision for the future, which is nice. Now that's interesting. Just want to kind of pick up on a point that you mentioned there. So you're interested in entrepreneurship, but you went on a connecting with industry program. Why did that kind of seem to be like a good match for you when you'd been in an entrepreneurship program?
I didn't know how to talk to people. If you want my honest opinion, I have been trained to be such an academic that I give such long and boring answers that people outside academia fall asleep, if you want my honest opinion. And I realized I wasn't very good at speaking to industry, and I hadn't gained that insight on how to do it, because I was having a meeting with business people, and at the end, say, I don't know what you mean. What is it you want? And they were very direct, and I realized I wasn't being direct. In my mind, I was. So the reason why I wanted to do Skillfluence was the core element was communication. How do I cut out that sort of academic waffle? It's not waffle if you're in a conference setting and other academics and you're getting into the heat of that literature, but how do I streamline that and do a beeline to the person I need to speak? And that's why that was my main goal going into Skillfluence, into the industry thing, was how do I get that? Because my research impacts a lot of the business I'm trying to set up, but I wasn't very good at communication. So that was my main goal.
Brilliant. Okay, that's really interesting. Well, the good news is you've already got chat in the box saying, trust you, trust me, from Tori Helmer, who's saying, trust me, you're not putting us to sleep here. So this is a good sign. Our work here is done at Skillfluence. I feel. Okay, Mina, it would be lovely to hear from you. What about you? What are your aims after your PhD?
Actually, my aims before COVID and after COVID have changed a little bit. Before I was just thinking of going to industry immediately after my PhD, but right now I don't see that prospect, because hopefully if my PhD finishes in 1 year, I don't think the situation is going to be as normal as before. So the job opportunities in the industry is not going to be as much as before. But I would definitely want to do a mixture of both industry and academia, because I feel like, I like both teaching and also working in industry. And I feel like a good university lecturer or instructor is the one that is connected to industry as well and knows about the industry. Because right now that I'm just delivering some tutorials at the university, one of the good points that the students always tell about me is that they say that they really like that I always bring examples of the industry, but I need to update my information about industry, because it was only 2.5 years ago that I was in the industry, and it was all in Iran. So I don't know anything about the industry in the UK or in Europe in general. So that's like an untouched part for me. That's why I wanted to take part in some internship during my second year, but unfortunately because of COVID, everything was canceled. But I'm still looking forward to some experience in the industry in the UK or in Europe.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. So we've got a sort of reasonable mix of different, perspectives that you're coming from. So what I'm interested to hear, and I'm going to go to Virginia for this one, because I loved her answer when I was talking to her before. I liked her answer to this. What was her motivation in deciding to do the training? And she was very honest, I thought, in her response there. So I don't know if you can remember what you said, but I'll come over to you first.
Yeah. So my honest answer was that it was being offered, and it seemed to be the only thing being offered by the MPLS division, so the Medical Physical Life Sciences division in Oxford. So I just thought, well, I'm not sure how many things they're going to run because of the constraints, so I'll sign up for this. That was why. Yeah. And I mean, more broadly also because I had been already attending some like courses, and more maybe not courses but like short sessions, like lunchtime sessions, something a bit not always requiring sign up or a long-term commitment. But all of this is now gone, so I just realized that, well, maybe these new formats of online short courses are what they are going to do, and I just felt like I had the time to invest it at this point. I was part of like during my quarantine, so it was definitely a good time to go on a course.
Yeah, we found that when people were locked at home, it did make them a lot more accessible for getting them. That's really useful. I'm going to come over to Johanna now, just to kind of get your take on this. What made you decide to sign up for a connecting with industry course?
So as I mentioned, I'm in a partnership with a company for my doctorate, so I visit them regularly, and I really wanted to make sure I was making the most of that opportunity. I get to be in their offices, and I wanted to be sure I was asking the right questions and picking up on the things I need to pick up on to make sure that they would have a good impression of me and I was getting the experience I needed. And secondly, because it's now online, it's so much more accessible to join. As in, I'm in my lab, I can pop in before and after and do something. And I can also come to these courses. Well, in the old days, I would have to clear an entire day. I'd have to go down to the town center because we're a bit off campus, go and then have to come all the way back up, and it would cost me a day. So this is a lot better for us.
Yeah, it's more, yeah, it's going to fit in. Time is always just a massive thing for PhD students because you are all just crazy busy. I mean, you get so many, things thrown at you. But that was something that I really picked up from all of you, was just your commitment to training. Because I think, this is part of a kind of portfolio for you, isn't it, Johanna, really, of things that you're looking at. So tell us a little bit about the other kind of things that you've attended.
So previously I've done a minor in entrepreneurship, so 6 months, complete lean canvas, the whole process. I've got a year of accounting at a student society under my belt. I've run probably 5 different committees, and I'm now really going towards doing more courses, looking at improving communication, CV building, and that kind of trajectory I'm going to.
Yeah, it's now getting to the pointy end, isn't it? You're kind of like now more focused on the career stuff. Okay, all right, thank you very much for that. Let's go to Matt now, and I'm going to ask you a bit of a different question here. So networking is something that initially I think we've been finding harder to do online because it's different to how we've been doing it before. Maybe we're just now getting used to this new way of connecting with people. And when I spoke to some of you, you mentioned networking was a key element of the course. Could you tell me a bit about whether it expanded your network or how it expanded your network or what you learned around networking from it?
I could safely say it gave me the tools, right? Because there wasn't particular people in my direct line of industry. But one thing you gave me a lot to think about, and because basically, because of everything being so accessible, I've been able to speak to 3 or 4 or 5 people in a week, and they've been so generous in giving an hour to 2 hours of their time to talk about that for user validation for what I'm trying to do. But what you just talked about was how do you cultivate and maintain a network, and then you talked about the transactional process and that as well, and that's something I've never thought about. So now I've created, this is terrible and this is being recorded, but I've created a couple of template emails to make sure, from your advice, to make sure I'm updating with people and asking how they are, how their project is. And then I can't remember everybody because before I thought this question was going to come up, and I've spoken to about 75 people throughout this entire pandemic of networking after doing Skillfluence. And normally when I speak to one, they'd have 5 people and they do email introductions. So I had to make different templates up to maintain that level of activity. The other was I try and keep a record of like bullet points from our last conversation, so it could be personable. it's all a sham. It's a house of cards. But the other element was making sure if I speak to someone, I can go back to that list and I can make sure to connect them with someone else. That's when I talk about the transactional part. Instead of me taking a bit of karma in a sense, instead of me taking all these resources people have been giving me and good contacts and how to build, I'm now able to, because I've built such a network, relate back to people and help them out, even if it's not some direct line. And I think that is something he's really made it shine a light on, because you talked about it's building almost a reputation and the ability to work. And that's something I never thought that could be connected to networking and the value of networking in building that. So really, to summarize, I babbled again. I apologize. I'm a blather. Maintaining the network, taking an active interest in people, because I think that's never really talked about, and how just generally being a good human and taking their active interest, and then making sure to think, how can I connect other people? Because you did a session with, and I've forgotten her name, and she was absolutely wonderful. And I can't remember if she was from Newcastle or if she was of Sunderland, one of the two. And she talked a lot about this, and that really changed my entire approach. So after that, I had to design myself a plan as to how I have to reapproach this, because I realized I was doing such a bad job.
You're such a hard time, Matt. I think that's fantastic. And this idea of you actually take notes and write it down. The fact that you're putting that effort into making your connections with people thoughtful and good is a great thing. So yeah. I love it. All right, well, thank you very much for that, Matt. I'm going to go to Mina with this same kind of question. Just tell me a little bit about where's the networking taken you then?
to be honest, one of the main reasons that I took part in connecting to the industry was this, that I knew that you were going to bring some people from the industry, because I've had the experience of taking part in courses like this before, and I saw that they were bringing people from the industry. So I thought that maybe I can just be connected to the people who own a business or those entrepreneurs, which can provide a good opportunity for me. And it really did, because I can remember there was a session that we were supposed to just, I don't know, say that what kind of connections and networkings we were looking for in that course. And then we talked about it. And I said that I'm really looking for some internship in digital marketing. And there was one of these participants that connected me to one of her friends that had a company and was just running big campaigns for big companies like P&G, and that was a good opportunity for me. And the other thing was this, that I got, I knew Joanne before, but I didn't know that she was connected to the tourism industry that much. So she opened a big world to me, even for my data collection, and even for, I don't know, for getting to know something about the tourism board in Scotland, because one of the weak points of me now doing the PhD in tourism in Scotland is that I don't have any connection in the tourism board, but that was a good opportunity for me. And the other thing was that I got to know you, Alison, which was a great pleasure and great help for me. I think that opened a lot of doors for me, to be honest.
Ah, brilliant. That's great to hear. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Johanna, you looked like you might have something to contribute. I wasn't sure. You kind of were like smiling and nodding. So I'm going to come to you if there's anything around networking that you want to touch on there.
I was thinking about this, and I think we had a session where we were talking about how big is your network. And I always thought mine was quite small because I'm in a lab group, I'm up the hill. And going through this course really made me think, but I'm also part of MPLS. I also have a huge network in volunteering. I know so many people in industry. I know people in other countries. And I think sitting down and taking the time to realize how broad my network was has also made me utilize it better. So I have a friend who I know from outreach who is down the road, but he's now a massive help in my research. And just actively thinking, oh, I do know people who do that has been very valuable to me.
Yeah, I think, some of the stuff that we do, it's not, I shouldn't say this, but it's not really rocket science, but it just shines a light on stuff that you're maybe not focusing on because you're focusing on your PhD and your science and your tech or, your research. And you don't have time to really think it through. So it kind of helps to have someone come in. Brilliant. That's really nice to hear. We've got a great question from, hello, Stephen. Great question from Stephen, who's asking, did your university recognize the training in terms of like credits or badges or on your transcripts or anything like that? I'm not sure who to go to. Is anyone, let me see, Virginia, I'll just come to you. You may not have an answer for this, but let's hear what you've got to say. Oh, I think you're on mute. I'm not sure how you're on mute.
Sorry.
But
I don't think they do recognize it as in the transcript. I think the certificate that I received, then, I'm sure I can put it on my LinkedIn or in my resume. But I would like to answer, because I've been reading the chat about how do you convince supervisors that this is a good use of your time, and in all of that. I don't know. I think I feel like part of that should rely more on the university itself or the organizers of, for example, I'm part of this center of doctoral training, because I feel like it is sometimes difficult to convey that skills building is important for you, and it will be a good use of time, even though I think it's true at the same time that sometimes you learn some transversal skills during those courses that then help you in your actual research. So I would say that's definitely beneficial for me, and my supervisor is quite open to me taking up courses, but at the same time he wants to see progress in my research. So like, for example, this course that was over 3 weeks, in our case twice a week, for me that was already on the high end of time committing, and I was able to take it also because it kind of coincided with my quarantine. But I guess my point is that I think it is a really important point to think about how to make it more valued by the university and the supervisors that the students go on these courses. And I think it falls mainly on us. I'm not sure that's the best. And one thing I'm going to say, though, is that as part of the doctoral training center, I got some training provided as well, which was compulsory. And the aim of that is actually to make sure that the students have all the possibilities to attend it. But sometimes that was actually not very beneficial because it makes it clash with some important experiments. Or so I would say that from my point of view, I would rather have I don't know, maybe a blanket amount of hours that I should be expected to spend per month or per year on courses, and then maybe being able to build that based on my interests, and then maybe having some sort of report system that, like, as part of the progress in the PhD, you have all these time like checks. So an actual important check that places emphasis on, so what did you do this year for your personal development, whether it's like, I don't know, being in committees. I've also been involved in committees, and like in my college committee, or like other activities, not just courses, but like going to a hackathon, or what have you been doing this year. And I think if that was more valued by the university, it would make our life easier as students to find the resources, and also to convince or deal with these different expectations by the supervisors.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, thank you very much for that, Virginia. Yeah, I think that, well, the Concordat, which I'm sure a lot of the folk that are here will have come across, I suppose is aiming for, what you're talking about there, Virginia. The implementation of that is also a little bit different. So, I'm sure that there's challenges there. That's an interesting point, though. So let's go to maybe Mina, if that's okay. We'll come to you. I'd be interested to hear, how do you get buy-in from your supervisor for training and skills development?
I can say that my supervisors are pretty open with that. Plus, the university rules is just, I don't know, I've heard this, but no one has ever asked me, I mean, for anything to check that. But they say that we're supposed to do 80 hours of training per year. But nobody checks that, to be honest. But my supervisors are really open, and they were thinking that because they don't have any connections to the tourism board in Scotland either, they were thinking that me taking part in courses like this maybe can provide the opportunity for the university to make connections to the industry as well. So they always see that as an opportunity. And for myself, I can say that I would like to take part in a lot of training courses, because I think PhD is not a journey that you should go directly and stick to your research. You should be wise enough to just gather different bits of information during these 3 years to make the most of your life, to make the best experience for yourself. So that's why I think that taking part in a lot of training courses that are relevant to build my skills for future job and my future aim would be a good idea. And I've never had any cases that my supervisors told me, no, Mina, you're not allowed to take part. They've always been really open, and yeah.
That's nice. So I suppose, like, taking you in a bit of a different direction, you took part in a multi-mind challenge, one of the kind of live business challenges with a real business. How did that, did that add to the, like what you learned, or, was that useful for you in any way?
Yeah, I find it really useful. The first thing that helps me a lot was just that before Alison, I have told you that I have always wanted to have my own business. I mean, since I was, for example, 20, I always wanted to have my own business. But to be honest, I didn't have the courage to think of that and think that I can really do that. And I was really, because I'm not a risk taker, I was always scared of taking steps. But taking part in courses like Connecting to Industry, and courses that you can see some entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, that they went to reach their dreams, to fulfill their dreams, and they could really do that. And they're successful people now, coming to the universities, giving their speech about their job, was really inspiring for me. And thinking that, okay, if these people could do that, maybe you have the opportunity to do that as well. You should just go for your dreams and take action. So I feel like they're really inspiring for me, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And like, maybe it's like a hole of light in a darkness, because I always thought that maybe that's not possible, because I'm in a different country, in a different background. I don't know anything about here. Everything is new. Even I was not familiar with the educational system here in the Europe or in the UK before coming for my PhD. So I think that was a big courage and inspiration for me to see all these people, having their own businesses and being successful, and they're still young. I thought that maybe, okay, you don't need to be old to be successful, to have your own business. You can start even now, for example.
Yeah, it's so cool seeing other people who have done things that, you know, are aspiring to you. All right, that's brilliant. Thanks very much, Mina. I'm going to come to Johanna now, if that's okay, because actually in the chat box, they've asked us, Caroline Pope has asked, could you tell us a bit more about what the multi-mind challenge is? And I think it would be easy for me to do it, but I just think it might be nicer to hear what it actually was from your perspective as a PhD student.
Yeah, of course. So what we had is we got a little video beforehand where we had a CEO of a local company come and say, this is where we're at as a company. We're thinking we need to do something with this pandemic. This is how our revenue streams are changing. Then we had the actual day and session. We came back, we got a small recap. We got split into groups. We talked about what we thought we would need to know to answer his question, which in his case was, should we just hold on, wait it out, sit out the storm, or pivot? Come back. We had a session where we got to ask these questions to really see and probe what his thoughts were, where he was at, a moment to listen. We got back, we do our research for 45 minutes. I think it was very, very quick.
Yeah.
Very quick. Made a recommendation, put together slides and presented that to him. And what was really great is the CEO took the time to listen to our presentations, give his feedback on how he thought it went, what we could improve, how we presented it, and how that aligned with his thoughts. I think the feedback for me was the most valuable part.
Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Yeah, I think it was a bit, it was quite a fast moving one. We've got one that's a bit longer than that, that's done over like 3 weeks, but you guys were just like thrown into it. You had like a half day or something, just like, go do this. Fortunately, you're smart people, so, you know, it worked okay. All right, Matt, I'm going to come over to you now because I'm now getting into like some of the nitty gritty of stuff around, because this is the things that keeps researcher developers awake at night. What day will I run my course? How long should it last? You know, where should I advertise it? What makes it easy for you to attend a course in terms of how it's structured? That's quite a hard question, I think.
That is a hard question.
Actually, I realise that now.
Really, it being online made a huge difference for me. I was able to, I think, going back to Joanna's point at the start, with everything switching online, I was able to fit more in. Whereas beforehand, I would have had to take time. I live an hour and a half away from my university, so beforehand I would have to travel that morning, or if it was a 2-day course, I had to book a hotel and stay the night because I just want to travel back. I wanted to be in the zone the next day, wake up nice and refreshed to give more myself for the next day. So being online was probably the best way. I know maybe people want to go after, you know, whatever end of this happens as a pandemic, maybe want to go back to meeting people, but this was a big factor for me. The other element is, if I'm being honest, I actually didn't think the course was long enough. I'd have liked a few more weeks. I'd have actually liked it to be longer than the 6 weeks. I would have liked it to have been for the full semester because I felt there was more questions that was ticking away in the back of my mind that I wanted to ask, or it took me then a few weeks to sort of click in my mind and think, I need to ask that. And these guys weren't around and it was very sad. Timing, it worked well for me that it was just after lunch as well. And later in the week worked much better. At the start of the week, I don't know about the rest of it. My mind's racing. I have like a to-do list of 20 things I need to get done, and I feel overwhelmed. And I'm like, how am I going to tame this beast in front of me? And then when it comes Wednesday, I'm kind of more relaxed and I'm more in the headspace where I can allow myself to be like, that's all right, I've got that done. I can calm down now and sit down and focus on this. Also, it was a lovely escape, if I can add, from everything else that was going on. I know that might be a bit weird saying that, but it was able time away from my PhD, and it was time away that everything was going on, and it was an enjoyable process to actually think of something else and connect with other people. And the great thing about it as well, I don't think we talk enough about it, is you give us a common language to deal with. Normally when I go to any industry conferences, people are speaking different interdisciplinary terms. where because we're all focused on the same thing, you gave us a language that we could bond over quickly with, and that initial step of being worried moved in. So I think that made it a real difference for me to come back and be more focused. Because I got to know people, I became more invested in the program, and I wanted to see it through. Where I've been in other ones, and if I can be honest, I, sh- I showed up once, they didn't capture my mind, and I left, and that was it. I thought, not worth my time. And it's not anything other, just my time is precious, and I have to make that key judgment.
Mhm.
But because I was able to bond people right away, and again, that I knew I could get
Yeah.
networking, something personal out of it they aid with other people, and that sort of human connection I'm looking for. And
Mhm.
those sort of factors crept into that. And I think that was very hard to pull off, but you did it very well, especially everything's turned online.
Yeah, well, I've got a quick question, just going back to something that you mentioned just
Please.
earlier in your point there was, yeah, you would have loved it to be longer, but there's always a tension for us. If we, I mean, like, we could make it longer. We'd love to. Oh my God, if we get our hands onto you for like months longer. But would you have signed up for something not knowing
No,
what it was that was like 3 months long or 6 months long, or that's the tension, isn't it?
in all honesty, I probably would have went, oh God, I can't afford that amount of time. No, you're correct. You're totally right in that assertion, because I would be going to my
I love
diary.
hearing that, Matt. I'm just no.
No, I'd be going to my diary and looking it up and thinking, I can't manage this.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's sort of the thing you're sort of weighing. I think a lot of us, because there are those sort of external pressures of, if any of us are volunteering on anything, or Virginia talked about being on committees, Mina talked about trying to gain a different cultural insights and trying to process that to ask the right questions. That is very much all there as well, and I think it's something very important to be aware of. I'm not thinking about that. I was in that sense, but you're in a different way. I'm babbling again. You're totally right in your assertion. If it was longer, I probably would have been switched off. Once I got onto it, I would have liked it to have been a bit longer, and I would have made the effort to make the time to go in that. I think would be my takeaway.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you for that, Matt. I'm going to come to Virginia now with kind of basically around that same kind of topic about format and structure and, what works for you, what days of the week and how long or how short or, all of those questions.
Well, I think I kind of agree that going online has made it a bit easier because sometimes, well, there's been a few people in our cohort like a month ago that were in the lab during the course, and at the moment I'm doing another course and I find myself some of the days I'm in the lab and I just pause what I'm doing for a bit, so it does help. um, at the same time, it was nice in the old days to just go for like some morning of career development and like have some tea and be able to talk to people like face to face. I found it a bit difficult at the beginning in the online format, but I think what worked well with the course it was that it was not too many people and that our breakout rooms were always quite focused on some specific task, so that broke the ice, let's say, in the beginning. um, and I think one of the things, actually, I agree with Matt. I also would have liked it to be longer, but if I had seen it before, I would probably also have thought I don't have the time. And the main reason I would have thought I would have liked it to be longer was really the people. But I felt like that only started to be more apparent, like the fact that we were meeting each other, like and we had so many things to talk about. Like I met several people in my department, like that now I continue talking to just because of the course. So I think for the people aspect, a longer stretch of time would be beneficial. But I think my take on the organization is that depending on how well, depending on the kind of work you do, your time is very unpredictable. And at the moment, I'm mostly doing either computational work or experiments that can be paused and resumed nicely. But if I was in another stage, like I don't know, just before COVID, I was in the lab 12 hours a day trying to make a protein and waiting for the cells to grow. And in that under those conditions, there would have been no format that would have worked. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I was thinking about this since you asked me last week, and I was thinking that sometimes it's nice that courses have a self-study component, or if there were more self-study resources available, and then maybe shorter like more occasional sessions for Q&A about that topic, or for breakout rooms about that topic. I think for a lot of people in situations like not like mine, like actually very much spending the life in the lab, and also now trying to make the most of the time before another lockdown, all of that, I think if I put myself in their shoes, probably other more occasional sort of insight sessions would work better, even though that's not really my experience. But I think unpredictability is quite a big
Yeah.
factor in any experimental sciences PhD, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's really interesting. Thanks very much for that, Virginia. That's useful. Okay, I think we're actually, I can't believe where the time has gone. I feel we've only just started having a blether, as we say in Scotland, having a chat. So I want to kind of finish up, I'm afraid. I've got one question for all of you, just as a kind of like, just what was your one key takeaway, or the kind of big learning point from you, maybe something that's really resonated strongly with you from the program, or just more widely from, like meeting people and so on the program. What's been your one key takeaway or kind of highlight from that? Oh, who will I go for? Let's go. Mina, let's come to you. What was your one key takeaway?
Alison, as I told you before, I think the most important thing for me was seeing successful examples of business owners. I mean, seeing young people like me having PhDs or doing their PhDs, or I mean, even not having their PhDs, but they're having their own business and they're successful in that. So it was like, it was really inspiring for me to see all those people and think that I can have, it was at that day I thought that, okay, you will have your business in 5 years. I mean, 5 years from now, you will start your own business. So that was the most important takeaway I can say.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, I find it really inspirational when you have speakers on. You're like, God, that's amazing what you've done in such a short space of time. So, yeah, thank you very much for that. Johanna, let's come to you. What's your kind of key takeaway or learning point?
I think it was something Zach said a few times. It was dig your well before you're thirsty. I've still got like 1.5 years left, so I should really take all the opportunities that are in front of me now to start building that network. Now I still have the time. Now I'm not completely in that deadline stress yet. I think that's really what I've taken away from that.
That's brilliant. You know, Johanna, that he is doing a jig in the background. He'll be, yeah, there you go. He'll be delighted with that. Dig a well before you're thirsty. Him and his homilies, eh? Love it. No, that's great, because those are the kind of things that just stick with you. Sometimes it is just a turn of phrase that really is meaningful. Oh, thank you very much for that. Virginia, what about you?
Well, I'm going to second that first as a good point. But I think maybe for me, it was more like just the confirmation that you can actually find out a lot of things that you might need or want to know by talking to the right people. And probably that most people would be happy to talk to you about it. So not just like within the cohort, but also if, I don't know, there's people with industry experience in the group. So I know who I could reach out to find out about startup internships or their experience. So I guess in a way, just the fact that people are quite an important part of all of this. And I think in a different way, that's not really a message, but more like a feeling of like higher confidence that these concepts or this language is actually, well, it's not so far away and not unattainable, that because I think as scientists or as PhD students, a lot of us have this feeling that we don't really know anything about the real world, that we just know, we know a lot of details, and we still don't know enough about a very niche aspect, and we don't know about other things. And I feel like it gave me a sense of confidence that to get some basics, it was not so far away, and also that it was okay to be in a position that we wouldn't have these basics, because a lot of the people we talked to from like the industry people that shared their experiences with us, there was a general sense that, well, they didn't know this until they had to, or until somebody taught them. But the fact that they didn't know didn't prevent them from developing their career and getting into these jobs. So I guess this kind of confidence of framing things in a positive way instead of in a negative way, thinking where you are and how you could get a step closer to the goal or to more information. I think that's as a general feeling, I think that was a very nice, surprising part of this course for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, like when we invite speakers, they always love coming along. You know, they're getting to talk about something they're enthusiastic and interested in to people who want to learn. I mean, what's not to like about that? So yeah, no, thanks very much. And Matt, what about yourself? A key takeaway from it?
I'm going to rip off Virginia's point, and I'm going to say confidence. I'm going to be a wee bit critical of universities, so don't berate me in the chat. Coming from the humanities, I don't think universities do a great job sometimes of translating how humanities students can connect with industry. I think there's a clear path if you study ICT or a science or something, and it's very clear. But say if you did, my discipline's politics, but say if you do English or philosophy, it's not clear. Undertaking the program, it gave me confidence in understanding how all these skills has a place of industry and how I need to repackage them and have the confidence to repackage them to sell them to where I need to go. And I think that's what that gave me, a confidence in myself that I can take this out into the world and work with those industries, where beforehand I didn't really see the path. I didn't really see how it fitted. And that was a real concern of mine. And it sort of haunted me for a while. I was just like, God, why did I pick politics? I should have picked something else that'd get me a job. You know, there was almost that sort of fear that took a hold of me. But undergoing this really settled that down and quiet those demons, and that voice has sort of now disappeared. I'm now understanding where that fits, and again, that confidence of how the humanities has that place and is just to have that place.
Yeah, that's brilliant. No, thank you very much for that, Matt. That's been really interesting from all of you. And I think actually that's something that comes up at the beginning of courses when we ask at the self-assessment at the front end, you know, what is it you're looking for? And confidence and communication are two of the key things that come up a lot. But I just want to say a huge thank you. That's been fascinating. I've loved to hear all your thoughts and your ideas there. Thank you for the questions. There's been quite a lot of chat going on. It's quite hard listening. I've not sort of fully engaged with all the chat because I've been listening to what you're talking about. So a big thank you for all the questions and all the comments. A big thank you to all our guests there. And a big thank you to our fantastic trainers, Joanne Haggerty and Zach Sorrells, who delivered all these programs. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen again, just with the last couple of slides, just as we finish up here. So thank you very much for our panelists. Lots of food for thought there. We've got a minute or two to go. So just to let you know about our next webinar, there's a QR code, and I think hopefully Rachel will probably be sharing the code, the address to register for the next webinar that's on in January. If you open up your camera on your mobile phone and just hold it up to the QR code on the screen, it's amazing, but it will automatically recognize it without you having to do anything. You don't have to take a picture, it'll just focus in. It's pretty cool. We'll also send this out after the webinar as well. If you like our webinars, why not think about signing up to the mailing list for the webinars? It's the only way that you're guaranteed to hear about when the next one's on. Obviously, we won't have as wonderful speakers as we've had today. Look at them all there. No, I'm sure we will have some fantastic guest speakers. That's what really brings these to life, is actually hearing from real people, you know, what their experiences have been. So hopefully today you've, you know, it's been really interesting to hear from the panelists. Huge thank you for them for taking part and talking to me today. Thanks to all of you for attending. There's been some really great questions, lots of interesting chat. And I hope you found it useful. Hope you've gained a new idea, new insight, some learning, maybe some actions even, and some reassurance that, you know, you're getting some things right and that everyone's in the kind of same boat at the moment. So thank you for our speakers, for Mina, Johanna, Virginia and Matt. Thanks to my colleagues, Joe, Rachel and Zach, who've been making sure it all runs smoothly. Thank you all for joining us. Please do keep in touch. Feel free to contact us if you've got any questions or training queries or ideas for future webinars. If you'd like to find out more, just get in touch. There is a very short evaluation. It's like 3 questions when you leave the webinar. We appreciate feedback, so please do let us know what you thought. And we can also give your feedback to our lovely speakers as well. So if you've got any comments for them that you'd like to leave, then that would be brilliant. And any ideas for future webinars, do let us know. So thank you, and I will look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.